This is a confusing one. It's called House of Civil Wars, but it has got nothing to do with civil wars, like at all. There's not even a thematic link. They really have just put that on a comic to try and sell it, to try and trick people into thinking this is part of the event, when it's just a Mr. Magnet's origin story. Other than the two names, it's got a good cover. I suppose the artist, though, because he has drawn Mr. Magnet like a Cuban revolutionary or something, like this whole image, it's obviously inspired by some sort of communist flyer. I suppose that means that the artist must be a Cuban revolutionary, because that's the logic in it. If you draw a baddie as Space Hitler, then you are a Nazi. So if you draw the baddie as Che Guevara, then you must be Che Guevara. As I said, this is effectively a Mr. Magnet's origin story. It's very streamlined, but it's decent. We open up in Auschwitz. That is like a theme park, and I'm not really sure what's meant to be going on. I think Mr. Magnet, when he was little, his mum tried to sneak him in so that he could have a go on the rides and stuff. But they got caught by the guards, and they ran away because they didn't want to get a fine, and they hid in this big pile of dead bodies. I don't know what that's about, really. Why would there be loads of bodies outside the theme park? Was this like some big news story, like a scandal, and one of the roller coasters had dodgy brakes and people kept dying on the ride or something? And it's meant to be like satire of that, and I just don't know the story, so I don't get it. And then this fella shows up and he finds them and he helps them, and we saw this bit in the films where they take Mr. Magnet away from his mum, and he is crying out for her like a little crybaby. And this is how he discovers his powers. He brings down this whole house. In the film, it was just a little fence. Then several years later, he has grown up a bit, and he meets this woman. She is a gypsy, but that is a derogatory term, so you shouldn't say that. And what's even more offensive are the terms pikey and jippo. So don't call this person any of them hate-filled names. Just call her a person, which is what she is. Her ethnicity is irrelevant. Well, except for the fact she is selling Lucky Heather. 4 years later, he has married her and they have got a daughter. And he's at work here and his boss starts screwing him around, starts paying him less. So Mr. Magnet, he gets angry and he uses his mutant magnet power to lift up a crowbar and throw it at his boss, which he could have just done with his hands. So I don't know why he felt the need to show off. And now we take a little break from the bizarrely paced adventures of Mr. Magnet for 2 adverts for telly shows that were cancelled. So Mr. Magnet, he goes home and they have burnt his house down. And there's an angry mob and they start beating him up with baseball bats. And he gets annoyed about this. He gets so annoyed that he uses his powers and he knocks them all away. But the thing was, his daughter were in the house. Mr. Magnet, he is angry because his child has done a dying. So what he does is, he kills the entire mob. And his wife is terrified. She runs away from him. And you can see she's holding her stomach there because she is pregnant again. With twins, but I'm sure they won't amount to anything surely. So then we jump a year later. And weirdly, we're skipping an entire story beat where Mr. Magnet apparently becomes a mutant rebel. And I'm not really sure what's meant to be happening here. We've got him and some other mutants, and this big one here, I think he is meant to be one of the paraders from Mutant Mascara, the one that Thor killed in the sewers. And I'm not sure what they're meant to be doing here, because this is obviously like a prison, and these are the guards, and what are they meant to be doing? Are they breaking out? Are they meant to be breaking someone out? It's not really said or established, but whatever, they escape. And this is a getaway driver there, and she is very pretty, and Mr. Magnet must think so too, because he starts banging her, and he has gotten her pregnant as well. He has got some proper good sperm. Like, over the course of 8 pages, he has conceived 4 different children. He sends her away to protect her and the child. We've got an advert there. Meanwhile, Peter Dinklage, who must be standing on stilts for this scene because he's the same size as everyone else, he has done created the Centennials. They are the robots that hunt the mutants. And look, the robot, he is attacking and he has killed the one that I thought was one of the paraders. And Mr. Magnet, he starts fighting the Centennial and he quite easily defeats it. And someone is hiding in the shadows watching them. And if you haven't guessed who it is from this really obvious silhouette, well, it's Armageddon. Good art, by the way. This guy, I feel, he's a bit like a classic comic book artist, and he's just kind of in the wrong decade. Like, this would be amazing in the 80s or the 90s. Well, it's amazing now, but I mean, like, back when comics weren't coloured like this. Like, there's nothing wrong with this colouring, but I think this art with basic colours, none of like the gradients or airbrushing kind of effects, just like basic colours, flat colours, vivid colours, this would look fantastic. Armageddon, he is here and he has come to Mr. Magnet to propose an alliance, but they are a bit philosophically different, because Mr. Magnet, he's like, why did you just stand there? Why didn't you help us? Some of them died. And Armageddon guns, I waited to see who among you was worthy to guide the future of mutant kind. Their death proves they were not. And he stamps on one of the skeletons. And Mr. Magnet, he is offended. He's like, how are you, man? They were me mates. But regardless, they decide to get into bed together. Metaphorically, of course, because if they got into an actual bed, Armageddon, he definitely would end up pregnant. So here we see Mr. Magnet and a bunch of mutants, they're attacking the army, and something I like is, if you look closely, you can actually identify who most of these mutants are. And this one here, he's called a Shocker. He is from Jack Quimby's run on Captain America, and he has got this human soldier pinned under this nondescript thing, and he's going to kill him, and he's like, who is the hunted one now, human? But Mr. Magnet jumps in and stops him from killing him, and he goes, leave him or join him. So it's not exactly subtle, but we're really seeing like the major difference between Mr. Magnet as a character and someone like Armageddon. I don't think that Mr. Magnet, he is a villain. He's a conflicted villain. But he's not without his merits. I really, really hate that whole thing, that Christopher Clairvoyant bollocks about how Mr. Magnet is like a tortured hero, how he's a misunderstood soul. I really hate it. He's a villain, even in this story where he is deliberately juxtaposed against a bigger villain to try and show that he isn't that bad really. He is still a villain. Like, in this story alone, he killed an entire mob for the death of his child, so admittedly you might think that is justified, that they killed an innocent child, but it wasn't a momentary outburst. He wasn't out of control or in a blind rage, because he clearly was cognitive enough to spare his wife. Then there was a bit where they were in a prison. He brings down a building, he brings a wall down on like the guards, on the police, so they probably died. And finally, how many people do you reckon he is killing in this scene here? Like, he is leading this entire assault on what I presume is an army base or a staging area or something. So yeah, he might be a little bit compassionate by letting this guy live, but what about all the other people that he has presumably killed here? Anyway, Armageddon, he just seems to stand around and watch other people do stuff. And then at their base afterwards, Mr. Magnet and Armageddon, they finally have a big argument about killing humans. And again, if you know your Excellent Men lore, you will spot nearly all these characters. Like that big one there, that is Onyx from the Spike Milligan run. That is L'Oreal from the Roger Thomas and Adam Neal's run. This is Dragoness from the Robert Liefeld Excellent Force run. And this one here, this is Bling with an exclamation mark. Also from the Spike Milligan run. And Squealy, of course. I skipped him because I assumed you'd know him. There is a bit of a continuity error though. Big goof actually. Onyx and Blink with an exclamation mark, they were introduced in 2005, just after Van Morrison's run. And they were teenagers, they were students. So, them being around at the time of Mr. Magnet's origin, that's very off. Squealy, at least, he has always been harder than the other Excellent Men, so he makes sense. And we get a big fight with Mr. Magnet and Armageddon, and I won't spoil it, I'll just skip to the end. Mr. Magnet, he is on the telly for some reason. Maybe he beat Armageddon, or maybe he blew up a Centennial, or maybe both of those things, or something else entirely. And he is given one of his "We won't live in fear" speeches that he always does, and you can see around the world all the people watching it, like there are the twins, the Flash and Charlotte Witch, there is Miss Magnet, this is Times Square, I don't know why, maybe all these people are his kids as well. And finally, Dr. X, he is watching it. Maybe he is his child as well, we don't know. Next, war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. This is a really good comic. It feels like a classic comic. Like, this should be the sort of comic that they give away for free or they direct new readers to. Like that True Believers thing. But for some reason they didn't. And it also has this fucking batshit name. If you like this, be sure to click like down below and leave a comment saying that thing you said wasn't on, or you got that character's name wrong or something. And if you'd like to see me do this whole series, let us know. I've got the rest. It's a good little series. And if you thought the cameos in this were fun, wait until the next issues. We've got loads of characters showing up. And I'm going to give this one 7 for